Hey folks, this is Jake Davis with my third of 9 videos ranking every Best Picture winner for the Academy Award ever, decade by decade. As I said, this is volume 3, so let's just get right into it. First off, the domestic records. We'll be talking about the 90s in this volume, 1992, 1999. The domestic records for these films they were released in between Valentine's Day and December 19th, just 6 days before Christmas. They're really covering the full year there in release dates. And they made an solid $75 million. This is before Uber inflation, before the war in Iraq. As low as $75 million and as monolithic as $600 million. No prizes for guessing what that movie is going to be. So yeah, not one flop in the bunch. So yeah, good for them. So yeah, let's get right into it. My number 10 will be The English Patient from 1996, directed by Anthony Minghella, starring Ralph Fiennes, Juliette Binoche, Kristen Scott Thomas, Willem Dafoe, Naveen Andrews, and Colin Firth. This movie also won the Oscars for Best Director, Supporting Actress, Original Score, Drama, Cinematography, Art Direction, Costume Design, Film Editing, and fucking Sound. Ugh. I hated this movie, and quite frankly, just real quick, yeah, there for a brief period in the mid-90s, I think like 96, maybe 95, to definitely by 98. They split up original score into dramas and musical or comedy. That was weird. Didn't really go anywhere. Didn't really do anything for anyone. But yeah. Anyhow, I really hate the whole setup with this movie. Is that he is I think World War One? I want to say I think it's World War One, where he's I don't think it's they're fighting Nazis, but I might be wrong. But he's a British pilot for the Air Force, and he falls in love with a married woman. They start an affair. Eventually, they get stranded in a cave. She dies. He sells intelligence to the enemy, and gets many men killed. Also, he can get a plane to go back to the cave and bury his already long dead girlfriend. This is all recounted as he slowly dies from his injuries after being shot down while hiding out from people that are hunting his ass, who totally have every good reason in the world to kill this son of a bitch. And then there's a right to die thing, so why didn't you just hand his sorry ass over to Willem Dafoe? This is a lot of this going on in Anthony Minghella's movies. A traitor is okay, a serial killer is not that bad of a guy in Talented Miss Ripley, and a deserter in Cold Melon. He did it for love. Well, it's not really love. It's a chick he boned one time at a dance, but he did it for the chick he boned that time at the dance. Can't you have sympathy? What about the guys he left to die? But the chick he boned that time... never mind. I hated this movie. It's easily one of the worst movies to ever win Best Picture. It is so hard to get through. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I wish I could just pull up... Too bad I don't do my editing, because I would definitely have queued up Elaine just screaming while she was forced to watch The English Patient. That's how I felt, man, watching this thing. I think it took me three sittings just to watch an hour at a time. Oh no, in that case, we would have taken 5 sittings. Fargo should have won. Number 9, Titanic. Directed by James Cameron, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, Bill Paxton, David Warner, Frances Fisher, Susie Amos, and Gloria Stewart. The movie also won the Oscars for Best Director, Original Song, Original Score, Drama, Cinematography, Art Direction, Costume Design, Film Editing, Sound Effects Editing, and Sound Mixing, as well as Best Visual Effects. Okay, it was the first movie to ever make $1 billion. I think it was number 1 in the U.S. box office for 14 straight fucking weeks. It was a game changer as far as big movies. Giving its big romantic nature, huge Hollywood epicness, and its groundbreaking box office. There's no way anything else is going to win Best Picture this year. still LA Confidential should have. The whole story is it is the story of a fictitious version of the story of the Titanic sinking, focusing on a poor young man and a rich young woman who fall in love, sleep. I'm sure someone sleeps at some point in this movie, but there's no reason to show that scene. I don't know, they probably did because this movie's so goddamn long. But yeah, eventually DiCaprio dies, and there's a whole framing device as her as a terrible old lady who just can't act. Tell him the story. Just look. It's pretty. It's emotional. The kids are great. DiCaprio and Winslet are both terrific, and Billy Zane is unappreciated in this. But I mean, look, man. Just to me personally, the triple threat of bad dialogue, cliche story, and just an insufferable runtime makes Titanic a chore. I've probably seen it 3 times in my entire life, and probably all 3 times were within the first year it came out. I mean, I don't hate it as much as, I mean, there was definitely a time, like, you can't even mention this movie without me just bullying down on you my loathing for the film. But, it's number 9. That's the best I can do. At least it's watchable. You know, at least it has a love story you're kind of rooting for. Billy Zane is definitely a creep. It's better. It's just better than English Patient. Just a tad bright here. That's as slow as it goes. Maybe I shouldn't even need the fucking ring light. Number 8, I'm gonna say Forrest Gump from 1994, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Sally Field, Gary Sinise, Michael T. Williamson. Yes, that's how I'm gonna say it. Just deal with it. And Haley Joel Osment. Movie also won Oscars for Best Director, Actor, Adapted Screenplay, Film Editing, and Visual Effects. This was another huge hit, and quite frankly made Tom Hanks like the biggest movie star for like the rest of the fucking decade, to be honest with you. The whole story here is Tom Hanks plays Forrest Gump, who is a mentally deficient man from Alabama who's a baby boomer, and he inspires the whole hippie generation accidentally. He gives Elvis his idea for dancing, and it's not really what the movie's about, but that's the overall takeaway. The story's really mostly about him falling after his girl he grew up with, next door girl named Jenny, who's just an awful person. She's just terrible. She's the worst. And a lot of great supporting roles in this. Sally Field's terrific. Gary Sinise is amazing. Michael T. Williamson got the whole fucking career out of his work in this movie. Game-changing visual effects, a great soundtrack, including a magnificent score from Alan Silvestri. But to me, the problem with the movie has always been, first off, a lot of the humor is just recycled from Back to the Future. With his name's Calvin Klein, and he goes to the guys, he pretends he's the guy's nightmare and calls himself Darth Vader. It's just the same kind of jokes, you know what I mean? And Jenny's awful, and it's a nitpick, but I've always hated Tom Hanks's southern accent in this. His Alabama, it just does hit my ear well, you know what I mean? But that's just a little thing. I mean, I like with Titanic and Forrest Gump, these are beloved movies, so the fuck do I know? It's my personal opinion, y'all. And Pulp Fiction should have won. Now you may say Shawshank Redemption should have won, but you're just being a contrarian. It's a great movie, but you're wrong. Forrest Gump should have won. No, the fuck. Pulp Fiction should have won. Fuck Forrest Gump. Number 7, Dances with Wolves, directed by Kevin Costner, starring Kevin Costner, as well as Graham Greene, Mary McDonnell, Maury Chaykin, and Wes Studi. This movie also won the Oscars for Director, Adapted Screenplay, Original Score, Cinematography, Film Editing, and Sound. Kevin Costner plays a cavalryman who, after a failed suicide attempt that accidentally leads to a victory on his side, is kind of outpost at a like right on the edge of Indian territory. It's basically just that there's a white girl that they've taken in and raised, Graham Greene's tribe, and he falls in love with her and becomes one of their people. And don't get me wrong, it's a good movie. Dance with Wolves is a really, really good movie. It was way too long, kind of preachy, and stuff like having like blankets covering obvious saddles to make, because the Indians didn't need saddles, kind of things. If an Indian could get his hands on a fucking saddle, he'd use it. It's a comfort issue. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, sure, you may not, a homeless guy may not need socks, but you've got to find some fucking socks, he's going to wear them, man. You know what I mean? But, anyhow, I also want to point out that this is the most recent time a Native American actor has been nominated for an Oscar. I mean, they basically have made it a rule. Black actors have to be nominated in every acting category every single year. But still, no appreciation for Native American actors or Asian actors. It's been Rinko Kikuchi for Babel, was the last time an Asian actor, Eastern Asian actor was nominated for an acting Oscar. And I think fucking like 3 Asian directors have won since then. But no love for the actors, I don't know. And I think it's disingenuous if you can't claim that you're supporting diversity when you're only supporting one group of diversity. You know what I mean? Let's have some genuine stuff. How about an openly gay actor being nominated for playing a gay character? It's literally only happened fucking once in the entire history of the Academy, and that was for Gods and Monsters. Yeah, or shit, man, actually just cast a gay person to play a gay person in a movie. I'm not saying they have to, but I'm just saying, I don't know why that's like almost a phobia in Hollywood. Well, my phone just tried to kill itself. I mean, I get it, I can be boring. Move on. Okay, I'm done. I'll stop bitching about Dance with Wolves. Sorry. I liked the movie, but come on, Goodfellas should have won. Obviously. Number 6, Braveheart from 1995, directed by Mel Gibson, starring Mel Gibson as well as Patrick McGoohan, Brendan Gleeson, Angus McFadden, and Sophie Marceau. This movie also won the direct Oscars for Best Director, Cinematography, Sound Editing, and Makeup. The only movie ever to win the Oscar for makeup purely for gore. Kind of sucks that it hasn't gone to a horror movie, but the fact that a movie won Oscar just for body parts and dismemberment and buckets of blood, that's great to me. But yes, this is the story of William Wallace's rebellion against the British Crown, I think in the 15th century. I might be wrong about that. I might be a century off. But yes, he was eventually captured and executed, and this is the story of his rebellion. What I loved about the movie, well, it's an awesome movie. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's just a really, really bad-ass movie. Just brutally violent, kick-ass shit, kind of wild, awesome characters as well. Mel's great in it. The famous speech, I've also heard that he can shoot fireballs out of his arse. That great scene. Fucking powerful, moving ending. There's some controversy, and I can understand why PETA get pissed off from this movie, which I think they did at the time, because there's a shot in the film where a horse was killed while they were botching a stunt or a charge or something like that, and I get, they kind of felt it would be more disrespectful not to use the shot. That horse died getting this shot for us. Remember that horse. Appreciate that horse. It's too long, and I mean, it's not saying like the length totally kills it, but I think what more affects it more than anything else to me is anytime you're not with the Celts causing all kinds of hell, the movie's just so sluggish to me. I hated the shit between Angus McFadden and like his dad. That was just so fucking boring. The kind of implication that the lineage of the crown was actually the William Wallace bloodline. Is I don't even know if that's an actual historian theory, but that seems immensely far fetched. Quite frankly, Braveheart should have won Best Picture out of what was nominated. To be 100% with you, it was the first time I ever remember watching the Oscars was in the '90s for the '92 the ceremony in '92. This was the first time I was ever watching where the movie I was rooting for was something the big fan favorite was a movie I'd seen, a movie I was rooting for, and it was great to see it win with Braveheart. So yeah, I was rooting for Braveheart, and definitely should have won. But I should point out in movies like Nixon, The Usual Suspects, Crimson Tide. These movies weren't nominated for Best Picture, and they've kind of been arguably better than some movies that were. I would have voted for, just to be contrarian, I would have voted for Apollo 13 over Braveheart, just as a runner-up. But I always do think it's weird that Babe was nominated for Best Picture, and Babe's a good movie. But if you're going to nominate a family movie for Best Picture, you guys know Toy Story came out this year, right? Anyhow, number 5, Shakespeare in Love. Okay, hear me out. Now, I know Harvey Weinstein is a monster. And I know that a lot of stuff has come out over the years that they apparently bought this Oscar, as well as the one they got for Chicago, as in literally paid off voters. So that's fucked up. That's fucked up. But the truth is, it's a good movie. It's a very, very, very funny movie, very charming movie, and just full of terrific performances. Speaking of, this is from 1998. And directed by John Madden, not the football guy. Okay, just don't freak out. And starring Rafe Fiennes here. Starring Joseph Fiennes, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeffrey Rush, Ben Affleck, Colin Firth, Tom Wilkinson, Rupert Everett, who's uncredited by the way, as Thomas, just Christopher Marlowe, and Dame Judi Dench. The movie also won the Oscars for Best Actress, supporting actress, original screenplay, original score in a musical or comedy, art direction, and costume design. The only film from the decade that won Best Picture, but not Best Director. So a little history thing for you there. The whole story of this movie is it's a comedy about William Shakespeare having writer's block and struggling with trying to get money and a theater and a cast and everything else you would for a production. While trying to put together Romeo and Juliet, which is one time called Romeo and Ethel, the Pirate's Daughter. It's a very charming, very funny movie. Ben Affleck's terrific in it. Gwyneth Paltrow's okay in it. I mean, it's kind of one of those situations. If Winona Ryder or Nicole Kidman would have played this role, they would have won an Oscar too. But Gwyneth is fine. Jeffrey Rush is great. Tom Wilkinson kind of kicked his career off. He had a good year here. He was also the same year was the villain in the first Rush Hour movie. It's a really charming, very watchable movie, and but yeah, just because the two big war movies, Dance with Wolves and Braveheart, are just so goddamn long. This is kind of the only thing that puts this movie. I mean, I'm nothing against long movies. I love shit like Seven Samurai and Lawrence of Arabia, but I mean. The slow down scenes in those movies are still good. When Dance with the Wolves and especially Braveheart slow down, it gets harder to watch. I would have voted for Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a great movie. If you want to say Saving Private Ryan, fine, but I would say Elizabeth because I kind of like the whole. This is like a gangster movie, but with the royal family. I think fucking Shakespeare would have dug that idea. Number 4. The Silence of the Lambs from 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme, starring Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, Scott Glenn, Ted Levine, Brooke Smith, Cassie Lemons, and Anthony Held. This movie also won the Oscars for director, actor, actress, and adapted screenplay. The only thing on the story of this movie is this is the only film ever won the Oscar Best Picture. It was the first film to ever win the Oscar The Best Picture that was a horror movie. We got two of them now, baby. But the whole story here is Jodie Foster is playing fresh out of the academy FBI analyst Clarice Starling. And her first case is hunting down a serial killer named Buffalo Bill, who is skinning women. She is advised to talk to an expert in criminal psychology and incarcerated psychopathic cannibal named Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins. And he tries to fuck with her brain and pushes her psyche, but also kind of gives her the confidence and helps her with that rough around the edges that gives her the ability to hunt down and stop Buffalo Bill. It is a great movie. I want to point something out. I talk about watching a lot of great horror movies, gory horror movies when I was younger, but I wasn't allowed to. I snuck the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in on my dad, and once I did that, he kind of almost like this was like a bearing down one. Well, it wouldn't let me come close to Silence of the Lambs. I definitely finally saw it when I was a teenager, and I understand why. It is not your typical horror movie. It's played as, the violence is disturbing, the madness is unsettling. My only real problem with this movie, the reason it's not number 3, is the leads. First off, Anthony Hopkins is not a lead. He only has, I believe, 12 fucking minutes of screen time. Hawkeye has 12 minutes of screen time in the first Avengers. You're going to tell me Hawkeye's the star of that movie? Come on. And I just think between her bad southern accent and his over-the-top performance, neither one of them quite gel with the rest of what Jonathan Demme is doing. And maybe this was his approach, but everything is in this very intense, unescapable, claustrophobic closeness. And I absolutely love Ted Levine's performance in this. Why was he not nominated for supporting actor? The great tracking shot going through his home and then to his lair to finally reveal the girl in the pit. It's one of my favorite moments in horror movies ever. That scene. And it's just all around a great, phenomenal movie that is worth many, many watches over the years, and probably more than anything else on this list that won this year. It's the most quoted movie from me. I love The Silence of the Lambs. I think it is a brilliant movie. It's damn near a masterpiece. Number 3, American Beauty from 1999. Real quick on Silence of the Lambs. I would have voted for The Silence of the Lambs, but for the sake of this, say Beauty and the Beast. Which is insane to me. How are they even up against each other? How do those two movies make the same short list? That's a weird comparison. A very massive contrast. You know what I mean? But yeah, okay. Number 3, American Beauty from 1999, directed by Sam Mendes, starring Kevin Spacey, Annette Bening, Chris Cooper, Thora Birch, Wes Bentley, Mina Suvari, Allison Janney, and Peter Gallagher. This movie also won the Oscars for director, actor, original screenplay, and cinematography by the legendary Conrad Hall. The whole story of this movie is Kevin Spacey plays Lester Burnham, suburban, middle-class, middle-aged father who basically has decided he's taking no more shit in his life, and he's basically going to do whatever he wants to do. And that basically means he's going to work out, listen to loud music, watch horror movies, smoke weed, drink beer, do a nothing, nowhere job, and fantasize about fucking his daughter's best friend, which he never does. And he gets a chance to. It would have been awful if he did. It would have been a horrible thing to do. But the reason this movie beats out Silence of the Lambs, because Silence of the Lambs is definitely more up my alley, being a horror movie and everything, but American Beauty beats out Silence of the Lambs purely because of the leads are so much stronger. We go from weaker leads, with the leads, like I said, Silence of the Lambs almost kind of threw off the rest of the vibe of the movie for me, but I'm literally the only person who has that kind of a problem with the movie that I know of. But with American Beauty, oh my god. Kevin Spacey, revolutionary performance, one of the best performances of the entire decade. And Annette Bening, one of the best fucking performances from a lead actress ever. Ever in a movie. I cannot tell you how much I was blown away by this one. I've been a fan of the woman since. I will watch a movie because Annette Bening's the star of it. It's shit like Being Julia, and The Kids Are Alright. I watched those movies just for Annette Bening because she was so fucking powerful in this movie. The fact that she didn't win the Oscar was a travesty. Sorry. And also, where was Chris Cooper's nomination? Where was Mina Suvari's nomination for this movie? But yes, Kevin Spacey won, and he absolutely should have. And, you know, no matter what they say about everything going on with Kevin Spacey now, it's very important to remember that at this time, as an actor, no one could touch him. He was impeccable. He was on the top of his game. He was the man to watch in Hollywood. And American Beauty is just, I mean, it's a phenomenal film. It's a dark comedy, but it's incredibly powerful and moving and surprising. And considering a movie that is unpredictable and surprising, when literally the first scene of the film is a guy telling you this is the story of how I die, that's a feat. Alright, this one's starting to get long in the tooth. Number 2. Yeah, American Beauty should have won, but let's say The Sixth Sense for runner-up. Horror movie. Awesome horror movie. Number 2, Schindler's List, 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Liam Neeson, Ben Kingsley, Ralph Fiennes, and Embeth Davidtz. This movie also won the Oscars for director, adapted screenplay, original score, cinematography, art direction, and film editing. And quite frankly, it probably should be my number 1. I mean, it's the story of Oskar Schindler during World War II while the Nazis are rounding up millions of Jewish people and executing them and putting them in concentration camps. It's one of the most horrific. It was the most horrific act of crime of the 20th century. Oskar Schindler he was a member of the Nazi Party, but was just a businessman. Figured this was the political party. Might as well tie in with them now so I can get some money, make some money during the war. And he starts seeing the more horrific atrocities happening to his countrymen and to his nation all around him, and starts using his factory as a sanctuary, a safe haven to protect these people. He saved thousands of people, and that's what happened. He saved thousands of people's lives, and I believe he was eventually hanged as just being a Nazi. They didn't know. They didn't know at the time, but he was a member of the Nazi Party, and they got him and they hung his ass. I believe. I'm like 90% sure of that. Look, it's a phenomenal movie. Groundbreaking, beautiful black and white photography. The color photography, dying. Let's not talk about it. Ralph Fiennes, it's just over the top in a lot of ways to me. It's one of Ralph's weaker performances in his career. And I didn't say that about the English version. I think he's downright awful in that movie. And I love Ralph Fiennes, but he's terrible in the English Patient. And I think he's over the top in this. Ben Kingsley is terrific, and Liam Neeson is phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal in this movie. And I should also point out that with all of his dozens and dozens of nominations, this was one of the few times John Williams actually fucking won. How about that? Good for him. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. Not only, if you were to say this movie should be the top of this list, I won't argue with you. If you were to say this movie is the best movie of the 90s, I won't argue with you. If you were to say this is one of the best American movies ever made, I probably would not argue with you. Schindler's List is powerful. It is an unforgettable motion picture. It will, if you've seen it, it will stay with you till the day you die. And number 1, Unforgiven, from 1992, directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Clint Eastwood, plus Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris, and Frances Fisher. This also won the Oscars for director, supporting actor, and film editing. And real quick, of course Schindler's List should have won Best Picture, but we'll say runner-up, The Fugitive. This is number 1 because it's more up my alley. I love Westerns. I love this kind of American mystique about cinema. And look, this is the movie I became a Clint Eastwood fan. My family, they were all Clint Eastwood fans. Sure, I've seen Clint Eastwood movies, of course, but this is a movie where I became a Clint Eastwood fan. I became a fan. Now I want to go back. I want to see movies like The Outlaw Josie Wales, like Dirty Harry, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And yeah, it's a great fucking movie. Phenomenal movie. The whole story of the film is Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman are retired assassins that were somehow, some way able to walk away from the life and start families. Out of desperation, need money. They get offered a job to go kill these two cowboys who cut up a prostitute in a town called Big Whiskey. Now the problem with this whole plan is the absolute merciless, psychopathic, tyrannical, and downright awful carpenter that calls himself sheriff in this town named Little Bill Daggett. Oscar-winning performance by Gene Hackman. Little Bill, hesitate to say this, but may be my favorite Western villain of all time. Westerns aren't really about the villains. They're about your heroes. They're about the trek. They're about the scenery. But Daggett's a great villain. And just set the tone for video games and a lot of pop culture trends over the next nearly 30 fucking years, where the assassin is the villain and the lawman. The assassin is the hero and the lawman is the villain. Great climax, great speeches, great performances. It is a masterclass. It's one of Clint's best works, and the fact that he sat on this script. A lot of people, you may not know this, but he sat on this fucking script for like 15 fucking years waiting for himself to be old enough to play Bill Money. Love this movie. Love this movie with all my heart. I recommend it to absolutely anybody. And I want to say it's a damn crime it did not win the Oscar for cinematography. I've also always felt that Francis Fisher was also snubbed for a nomination. Of course, it should have won Best Picture, but I'll say runner-up, The Crying Game. Also want to point out lots of movies that were great this year that didn't get nominated for Best Picture. Movies like Reservoir Dogs, The Player, One False Move, Glengarry Glen Ross. It was a fucking good year for movies, 1992, y'all. Check this year out. Anyhow, did I say my runner-up would be The Crying Game? Runner-up would be The Crying Game. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. This went longer than the other two, but I think I got more of my actual beats out that I wanted to. Said more of what I wanted to get out there. You know what I say? Next up is the 80s, and everybody loves them but me. Anyhow, I'm Jake Davis. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you want to. And I'll catch you on the fly.